Unlike a lot of classes, the RK legendary items are pretty clear-cut when it comes to damage. There's not really any value in any swap out unimbued, and it's pretty clear-cut which legacies are the best for damage. So I'll just start off with my runestone from the top. Of course, there's the tactical damage rating, which increases your damage. You want to max this out with crystals. Next up, we have my first legacy, Distracting Flame cooldown and combustion damage. The cooldown on Distracting Flame is not really needed in itself, but the combustion damage increases the damage on your combustion, which make your AoE damage much higher. Next, Wrath of Flame damage over time. All your dots will do more damage. 50% maxed out right now, something you must have. Next up, we have decreased power cost for healing skills, but that's not why we picked this legacy. It's because of the revive skill morale and power recovery. It makes your DNFs. If you look at my DNF, the target that I put a DNF on will revive with 94% morale instead of just 50% morale. And instead of 20% power, they'll have almost 70%. Just imagine being a tank in a raid and being rest with full morale instead of half morale. It makes a big difference. So every arcade should definitely have this legacy. Quickly looking at my stat legacies, I have Fate and Vitality. Since they nerfed the main stat for every class, these are by far the best ones to get. Vitality will give you that extra bit of morale, Fate will give you some crit and power regen. Much better than getting Will. My next legacy is Fire type damage. This one is obvious. You want more damage with your fire skills. Must have for any RK. And finally I have the Finesse legacy. It's nice to get a little bit of boost to your finesse without having to use essences. These legacies are by far the best ones you can have for your stone, and something I advise every arcade to get. Now let's look at my Satchel. Now these legacies are pretty much the same as the stone. They're by far the best ones. I don't think there's any debate, except for maybe Vitality, if you want a bit more Fate, but I like Vitality. Having a bit more morale is always nice. So let me look through my legacies. At the top you have your tactical healing rating. If you're a DPS, you don't really have to max this out if you don't want. If you want to save your crystals, you can do that. I just maxed it out because I like maxing out my allies. Next legacy, Essence of Flame damage. It's obvious you want more fire damage. And next is Distracting Flame damage. You want your Distracting Flame to do more damage. Next up you have Self-Motivation cooldown 30 seconds. It makes my Self-Motivation 15 seconds cooldown. And since it's a 30% heal, it's really strong. It can be used on the move, running around. Panic heal every 15 seconds is really good for an RK. So I would definitely recommend this one. And for my stat legacy, I picked Vitality. As I said, I like the morale better than the extra bit of crit from Fate. But if you want to slot Fate in here, it's not terrible instead of Vitality. Next up, the minus percentage on Smoldering Wrath power cost. It's not really important. The big thing about this one is the Searing Words damage. Whenever you get those Searing procs, those bleeds that will pop up now and then, they hit way harder with this legacy. The next legacy is kind of a healer legacy. Your rousing words will heal more. That's not why I have this legacy, it's because of the Do Not Fall This Day cooldown. It reduces the cooldown of DNF by 2 minutes and 40 seconds, which pretty much means you can keep DNF on 2 targets, which is very useful in a raid. Every RK should be able to DNF 2 targets. You'll put DNF on a target, it stays for 5 minutes. Cooldown is 2 minutes 20. You put it on another target and then you just cycle between the targets when it's off cooldown every time. That's another must-have for an RK. And at the bottom, an obvious one, rid of fire damage. Of course you want this. And yeah, like I said, these are by far the best ones for your Satchel, in my opinion. I also want to take a look at my titles and my relics. On my stone I have the Tactical Mastery, Knowledge of Elder Days 3, gives you an extra bit of Tact Mastery. And on my Satchel I have Molten Courage 3, which gives Mastery but also plus 5% fire type damage. You can get the titles in Minas Tirith. You just head to the Pelennor Barters and the Pelennor Rewards vendor. And you will get this one for your stone and this one for your Satchel. A quick look at the passives you can get on the RK allies. On your Satchel there's Healing Threat and Perceived Threat. Those are mainly for healers. I wouldn't worry about your passives on the Satchel at all if you're a DPS RK. But on your stone you might get a little bit of a boost if you get the good ones. The best ones in my opinion will be Tact Mate, Morale, and probably Crit for the third one. And with the Veils update we got all brand new settings, gems, crafted relics. I'll start on the bottom for these ones. You have your crafted relics. And I've chosen to go with the Fate with Crit and Mastery. Any Ironfold crafter can make the new crafted relics. For jeweler you need Ironfold ingots, and every craft will need 3 artifacts of the Veil. To get the artifacts, you barter with the Quartermaster of the Walderfolk. And you barter Rhymes of the Anvil. 1 rhyme for 2 artifacts. And as you can see there are 6 outputs. There's crit rating and mastery with all the main stats. Might, agility, and will. But in my opinion Fate is superior for the extra crit. So I would choose this for tactical mastery classes. And you have this one for physical mastery classes. I recommend getting the Fate one over any main stat one. And there's also the mitigation ones. And looking at the runes, this is probably the most must-have for a DPS RK. Tactical damage rune. Something you have to have. Increases your DPS by a lot. If you don't have this, you're going to suffer a lot. And on my Satchel, I equipped the binding one, the healing one, for the 7k crit you get from that. It's pretty good. You don't really raid in this game, you can actually barter for these relics with the Walderfolk. These are the second best ones. They are the same as the ones that drop from Anvil tier 2. If you get these, you should be fine. Your DPS will be pretty good. And for an RK, you would be getting this one for your stone, and this one for your Satchel. But if you want the ones that are even better, you will have to do the raid on tier 3, and those runes drop from boss 4, tier 3 difficulty. Looking at the gem, I think in any case, Vitality is superior to any other gem that they added. And for the setting, I went with crit. Some parry and evade, doesn't really matter, I just want the crit. The settings and gems can also be better for the Walderfolk using the Gulmark. And as I've said before, I think Vitality is superior for the gem. You can also make a case for Fate. Main stat is not really good. I will not recommend getting these. I would say you should either get Fate or Vitality. I like the Vitality because it gives me a bit of extra morale, and I'm not that super squishy in a raid as a DPS. And looking at the settings, there's only one I would totally disregard. It's the block and parry. You don't need this for an RK. Looking at the other ones, I wouldn't say that one's better than any. It all comes down to what you need for your build. Get a bit of tech mate, get crit or finesse, whatever you need. Personally, I just go for crit, because just from normal gear I get enough finesse and my tech mate is pretty high. So I would probably suggest getting the crit rating ones. Those are my allies. I don't think there's much debate. I think this is pretty much the best you can get. And hopefully this will be helpful for every RK out there. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, join my Discord, and I'll see you in the next one.